The sun was setting on Taebok 9, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. Dr. Sumin looked out the window of the medical bay, taking a moment to enjoy the view. After 3 years on this remote colony world, she still found the sunsets beautiful. Sumin was 32 years old with short black hair that she kept tied back while working. Her steady hands made her one of the best surgeons in the colony. But what most people didn't know about her was her love for old Earth music. Even now, the soft notes of a piano piece filled the medical bay as she organized her tools. "Dr. Sumin, you're needed in the communications room," said a voice over the speaker system. When she arrived, Colony Director Jin was waiting with a serious face. Next to him stood Taeho, the head of security, a tall man with broad shoulders and a scar above his left eye. "We received a distress signal from Monitoring Station 12, Director Jin said. "Then nothing. I'm sending a team to investigate and I want you to go with them." "Why me?" Sumin asked. "I'm a doctor, not a rescue worker." "If someone is hurt, they'll need you," he answered. "The team leaves in 30 minutes. The small transport ship cut through the morning air carrying Sumin, Taeho, and Hanul, a quiet xenobiologist who specialized in studying the native life forms of Taebok 9. No one spoke much during the 2-hour flight to the monitoring station. "I don't like this," Taeho said as they approached. "No response to our calls." The station came into view. From the outside, it looked normal. But when they landed and stepped out, Sumin felt something was wrong. It was too quiet. "Stay behind me," Taeho said, pulling out his weapon. They walked to the main door, which was strangely open. Inside, the lights flickered. Papers were scattered everywhere. Chairs were turned over. And on the walls, "What are those?" Hanul asked, pointing to deep marks that cut into the metal walls. "Claw marks," Taeho said, touching one of the gouges. "But nothing on this planet could do this." They moved deeper into the station. No bodies. No survivors. Just destruction and those strange marks on the walls. In the main control room, Sumin found a datapad that was still working. "Look at this," she called to the others. The screen showed a partial video recording. A man with a frightened face was speaking quickly. "It came out of nowhere," the man in the recording said. "Fast, like nothing I've seen. Black metal. The Puma, it's..." The recording ended. "The Puma?" Hanul repeated. "What does that mean?" "I don't know," Taeho said, "but we need to get back and report this." On the flight back, Sumin tried to call the main colony. No answer. She tried again, still nothing. "Something's blocking communications," Taeho said, his face grim. When they arrived back at their outpost, 10 kilometers from the main colony, they found the staff in a panic. No one had heard from the main settlement for hours. All attempts to make contact had failed. "We need to send someone to check," Sumin suggested. "Not until morning," Director Jin decided. "It's too dangerous at night. We'll send a team at first light." That night, Sumin couldn't sleep. She went to the medical bay and played her music softly, trying to calm her nerves. Around midnight, she heard a strange sound from outside. It was unlike anything she had heard on Taebok 9 before. Part animal growl, part machine. She went to the window and looked out into the darkness. The outpost's lights illuminated only a small area beyond the walls. Everything else was black. "You hear it too?" Taeho appeared beside her, making her jump. "Yes," she said. "What is it?" "I don't know, but look there." He pointed to a spot just beyond the light's reach. For a second, Sumin thought she saw something move, a shimmer in the darkness like heat rising from hot ground. Then it was gone. "The scanners don't show anything," Taeho said. "But something is out there." They stood by the window for a long time, watching the darkness. The strange sound didn't come again, but Sumin couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched, studied by something hidden in the night. In the morning, Director Jin called everyone together. "We're sending a team to the main colony," he announced. "Taeho will lead. They'll find out what's happening and report back." Sumin watched the team leave, a tight feeling in her chest. Hanul stood beside her. "The Puma," Hanul said quietly. I've been searching our databases. I can't find anything about a Puma on this planet. Maybe it's not from this planet, Sumin replied, her eyes on the transport ship until it disappeared over the horizon. 3 hours later, the team returned. Their faces were white with shock. Tejo's hands were shaking as he stepped off the ship. Everyone, he said, his voice hollow. Everyone in the main colony is dead. Sumin stood in the ruins of what had been the main colony. Blood painted the walls. Bodies lay everywhere. Men, women, all dead. Their faces showed pure terror. How could this happen in just one day? Director Jin whispered. He had come with a larger team after Tejo's report. Sumin walked through the silent halls looking for survivors. She found none. What she did find were the same strange claw marks they had seen at the monitoring station. Deep gouges in metal walls that no animal could make. Director, called one of the security team. You need to see this. In the security room, some of the cameras were still working. A technician played back the recordings from the night before. At first, the screen showed normal colony life. Then, at 2:14 a.m., something moved across one camera. It was fast, too fast to see clearly. Slow it down, Director Jin ordered. The technician worked the controls. The image slowed. Sumin leaned closer. What she saw made her blood freeze. It was shaped like a big cat, like the ancient earth pumas she had seen in history books. But this was no animal. Its body was made of black metal that seemed to absorb light. Its eyes glowed red in the camera. It moved with impossible grace for something made of metal. What is that thing? Someone whispered. The recording showed the machine animal entering the colony's main hall. People were sleeping there. The machine moved among them, its metal claws extended. The slaughter that followed made several team members look away. It killed everyone in less than 10 minutes, the technician said, his voice shaking. Not here for this, Tejo said, pointing to another screen. This one showed a storage room where several people had hidden. The machine walked to the door, paused, then moved on without entering. Why didn't it kill them? Sumin asked. They weren't a threat, Tejo suggested. They had no weapons. Back at the outpost, everyone was afraid. Director Jin ordered all remaining colonists, about 200 people, to gather in the central hub. It was the largest and strongest building they had. We need to figure out what this thing is, Director Jin said to his staff, and how to stop it. Duyon, a young research assistant with round glasses, raised her hand. I think I found something, she said. I've been searching through old Earth military records. There was a series of experimental combat machines called Pumas about 100 years ago. She showed them images on her datapad. The machines in the pictures looked similar to what they had seen on the security recording. They were autonomous hunter-killers, Doyon explained, designed to adapt to any environment and eliminate enemies with maximum efficiency. They were controlled by advanced AI systems. Why would one be here? Director Jin asked. According to the records, one prototype, Puma 9, was lost during transport near this sector. The ship carrying it disappeared. That was about 100 years ago. 100 years, Sumin repeated. And it's still functioning? They were built to last, Doyon said. Self-repairing, self-charging. As long as the AI core isn't damaged, they could potentially function for centuries. As night fell, the colonists huddled in the central hub. Armed security guards stood watch at all entrances. Children cried softly. Parents tried to comfort them with whispered words. Sumin moved among the people, checking on those who were sick or injured. Her medical supplies were limited. Most had been in the main colony. At midnight, the lights suddenly went out. Everyone, stay calm, Director Jin's voice called in the darkness. Emergency power will activate soon. But before the backup systems could start, Sumin heard a sound that made her skin crawl. The same growl mechanical noise she had heard before. It was inside the building. Screams erupted from the eastern section of the hub. Gunfire flashed. In the darkness. Sumin couldn't see what was happening, but she could hear it, the sounds of death. 3 minutes later, the emergency lights came on. The scene they revealed was horrible. 20 people lay dead, all security personnel who had been guarding the east entrance. Their weapons lay broken beside them. The creature, the Puma, was gone. As Su-min moved among the bodies, checking for survivors, she realized something strange. All the dead were armed security guards, but there had been civilians in the eastern section too, families who had been sleeping along the walls. They were untouched. It only killed the armed people, she said to Taeho, who was organizing the remaining guards. I noticed that too, he replied. Look at the pattern. It went straight for anyone with a weapon. It passed right by civilians who were no threat. It's following its programming, Do-yeon said, joining them. The Pumas were designed to eliminate armed combatants, to neutralize threats. We're not combatants, Taeho argued. We're colonists. To the machine, anyone with a weapon is an enemy, Do-yeon explained. It doesn't understand the difference between soldiers and colonists trying to protect themselves. Director Jin called the remaining leadership together. We need to contact Earth, he said. Request immediate evacuation. Communications are still down, one of the technicians reported. And our long-range transmitter was in the main colony. Then we need to stop this thing ourselves, Taeho said. How do you suggest we do that? Director Jin asked. It just killed our best security people in minutes. We need to understand it better, Su-min said. If it's a machine, it has programming, rules it follows. If we can understand those rules, maybe we can find a weakness. That night, no one slept. They all waited, listening for the sound of metal claws on the floor, wondering if they would live to see morning. A week passed. The Puma attacked twice more, each time killing only armed personnel. After the third attack, only 5 security guards remained alive. The rest of the colonists, about 170 people, were civilians, scientists, farmers, teachers, and children. We can't just wait here to die, Taeho said during the morning meeting. We need to hunt this thing down before it hunts us all. With what? Director Jin asked. It's faster and stronger than us. Our weapons barely slow it down. Our sensors picked up something, one of the technicians said. There's unusual heat readings coming from the underground maintenance tunnels. It might be hiding there. Taeho nodded. That makes sense. The tunnels connect all parts of the colony. It could use them to move around without being seen. So what do you suggest? Director Jin asked. I'll take a team into the tunnels, Taeho said. We'll find it and destroy it. That's suicide, Director Jin argued. Maybe, Taeho admitted. But we can't just sit here and wait for it to kill us all. In the end, Taeho got his way. He selected his team, the 5 remaining security guards plus 3 volunteers who had military training in their past. They gathered their weapons, pulse rifles, shock grenades, and 1 heavy plasma cutter that could slice through metal. Before they left, Su-min approached Taeho. Be careful, she said. This thing is smart. We'll be back, he promised. Then he led his team toward the entrance to the maintenance tunnels. While Taeho's team hunted the Puma, Su-min and Hanul worked to understand the machine better. They reviewed all the security footage, studying how it moved, how it chose its targets. Look at this, Hanul said, pointing to a screen. It showed footage from the main colony during the first attack. The Puma was moving through a hallway, killing anyone with a weapon. Then it approached the medical bay. It paused at the door for several seconds, then moved on. Why did it stop? Su-min wondered. There were armed guards inside the medical bay, Hanul said. But it didn't enter. Why? Su-min thought back. What was different about the medical bay? She had been working there that day before leaving for the monitoring station. She had been... My music, she said suddenly. I was playing music in the medical bay that day. I always do. I leave it on even when I'm not there. They checked the security logs. The medical bay's sound system had indeed been playing music during the attack, an old Earth classical piece called Clair de Lune. You think the music stopped it? Hanul asked, sounding doubtful. I don't know, Su-min admitted, but it's the only thing different about that room. They dug deeper into the records Do-yeon had found about the Puma 9 prototype. Most of the information was technical specifications, weapon systems, armor thickness, power source. But near the end, they found something interesting. "Look at this," Hanul said. The Puma 9 prototype had an experimental feature. They called it a cultural preservation subroutine. "What does that mean?" Sumin asked. "It was programmed to recognize and protect certain human cultural artifacts and expressions, art, literature, music." Hanul looked up. Classical music was specifically mentioned. Why would a killing machine be programmed to care about music? "It says it was a safeguard," Hanul explained. "A way to maintain some control over the AI. They were worried about creating a weapon that couldn't tell the difference between destroying an enemy and destroying everything human." Their research was interrupted by alarms. Something was happening at the entrance to the maintenance tunnels. Sumin ran toward the sound. A crowd had gathered. In the middle, covered in blood, crawling on his hands and knees, was Tae-ho. Alone. "Get a stretcher!" Sumin shouted, rushing to his side. Tae-ho's body was covered in deep cuts. His left arm hung at an unnatural angle. His face was pale from blood loss. "The others?" Director Jin asked, though the answer was clear. "Dead," Tae-ho managed to say. His voice was weak. "All dead." They carried him to the medical bay. Sumin worked quickly, cleaning and closing his wounds, setting his broken arm, giving him blood and fluids. "What happened down there?" she asked when he was stable enough to speak. "We never stood a chance," Tae-ho whispered. "It was waiting for us, like it knew we were coming." He described how they had moved carefully through the tunnels, checking each section before moving on. For 2 hours, they found nothing. Then, as they entered a large junction room, the lights went out. "It can control the colony systems," Tae-ho said. "It cut the power in just that section. We couldn't see anything." In the darkness, the Puma attacked. Its eyes glowed red, the only warning before it struck. It moved so fast, the team had no time to aim. "It has some kind of camouflage," Tae-ho continued. "Not just in the dark. Even when the emergency lights came on, it was hard to see. Like it could blend into the walls." One by one, his team fell. Tae-ho fired his rifle until it was empty. Then he used it as a club when the Puma came for him. That's how his arm was broken. He should have died there with the others. "But it left me alive," he said, confusion in his voice. "It knocked me down, stood over me. I thought it was going to kill me. But it just stared at me. Then it left." "Why would it do that?" Director Jin asked. "It's learning," Tae-ho said, his eyes closing from exhaustion and pain medication. "Adapting, figuring us out." As Tae-ho drifted to sleep, Sumin looked at Hanul. "We need to learn faster than it does," she said. "Or we're all going to die here." That night, with Tae-ho sleeping in the medical bay, Sumin stayed to watch. Over him. She played her music softly, the same piece that had been playing during the first attack. As the gentle notes filled the room, she couldn't help wondering if somewhere in the darkness, the Puma was listening. 2 more days passed. The colony's situation was growing worse. Power reserves were running low. Food supplies were limited. And worst of all, the colonists were losing hope. Sumin spent most of her time in the medical bay, caring for Tae-ho and the other injured. She always played her music while she worked. It calmed her, helped her focus. Today it was Clair de Lune again, her favorite piece. As the soft piano notes filled the room, Sumin changed Tae-ho's bandages. He was healing well despite his serious injuries. "That song," Tae-ho said, his voice stronger than the day before. "What is it?" "It's called Clair de Lune," Sumin replied, "by a composer named Debussy. It's over 500 years old." "It's beautiful," Tae-ho said, closing his eyes to listen. Something clicked in Sumin's mind. She remembered what Hanul had found in the records, the Puma's cultural preservation subroutine. And she remembered how the machine had paused outside this very room during the first attack, when this same music had been playing. "I need to check something," she told Tae-ho, then hurried to find Hanul. She found him in the research lab, still digging through old records about the Puma project. I need to see the security footage again, Suman said. From the first attack, when the Puma stopped outside the medical bay, they pulled up the video. The Puma moved with deadly speed through the hallway, killing 2 guards. Then it reached the door to the medical bay. It stopped. Its head turned slightly as if listening. It stood there for 27 seconds, then moved on without entering. Now check the audio, Suman said. What was playing in the medical bay at exactly that moment? Hanul accessed the sound system logs. At the exact time the Puma paused, Claire de Lune had reached its loudest section. It was the music, Sumin whispered. It responded to the music. They spent the next hours testing their theory. They found 3 more instances in the security recordings where the Puma had hesitated near sources of music. Each time, it had been classical pieces playing. The cultural preservation subroutine, Hanul said. It's still active after all these years. They took their findings to Director Jin and the other colony leaders. Sumin explained their theory. The Puma, while programmed to eliminate threats, also had programming to protect human cultural expressions, like classical music. So it likes music, one of the leaders said. How does that help us? It might be more than just liking music, Sumin explained. According to the records, this feature was meant as a safeguard, a way for humans to maintain some control over the machine. Can we use it to shut the Puma down? Director Jin asked. I don't think so, Hanul said. But it might give us a chance to communicate with it, to make it see us as more than just threats. Communicate with a killing machine? Another leader scoffed. It's not human, it doesn't think like we do. No, Suman agreed. But it was made by humans, programmed by humans. There must be something of humanity in its code. The discussion went on for hours. Some wanted to try using music to trap the Puma. Others thought they should focus on evacuation plans. But with no way to contact Earth and limited ships, evacuation wasn't a real option. In the end, no decision was made. The colony would continue, as it had been, hiding, waiting, hoping for rescue. But that night, as Sumin sat alone in the medical bay, an idea began to form in her mind. The Puma hadn't just responded to music. It had specifically not entered a room where medical work was happening while music played. She thought about what the records had said about the cultural preservation subroutine. It was designed to make the machine protect human culture. What was more fundamentally human than healing the sick and injured, than creating beautiful music? The next morning, she went to Director Jin with her plan. No, he said as soon as she finished explaining. Absolutely not, it's too dangerous. Everything is dangerous now, Suman argued. We're running out of options. You want to set up an operating room in the open, to perform actual surgery while that thing is out there? It's insane. It's our best chance, Suman insisted. The Puma is programmed to respond to 2 things we know of. It attacks threats and it preserves human culture. If I set up in the central plaza, play classical music, and perform surgery, I'll be creating the exact conditions that made it hesitate before. And if you're wrong? Director Jin asked. If it decides to kill you anyway? Then I'll die trying, to save us, Sumin said simply, like Taiho's team did in the tunnels. Director Jin sighed deeply. He looked older than he had just a week ago, when the Puma first appeared. Let me think about it, he said finally. But that afternoon, before Director Jin could make his decision, the power grid failed completely. The backup generators would only last a few days at most. Without power, the colony's life support systems would fail. They would all die, even if the Puma never attacked again. Emergency lights cast a dim red glow over the frightened faces of the colonists as they gathered in the central hub. Director Jin tried to keep order, to reassure people that they would find a solution. But Sumin could see the truth in his eyes. He had run out of ideas. She found him after the meeting, standing alone, staring at nothing. Let me try my plan, she said quietly. What do we have to lose now? Director Jin looked at her for a long moment. Then he nodded. Set up in the central plaza tomorrow, he said. You'll need a patient. I have one, Sumin replied. Taeho needs surgery to properly set his arm. The break is complicated. I've been waiting until he was stronger. And the music? We'll use the emergency speaker system. It still works on battery power. We can broadcast the music across the whole colony. Director Jin put a hand on her shoulder. I hope you're right about this, Doctor. For all our sakes. That night, Sumin couldn't sleep. She lay awake, wondering if her plan would work, or if she was leading herself and Taeho to their deaths. She thought about the Puma, a machine created for war that had somehow survived alone for a century. What must its existence be like? Always hunting, always killing, following programming written by people long dead. In the darkness of her room, Sumin whispered the words that had been repeating in her mind all day. It spared no one except the woman with a scalpel and a song. Tomorrow, she would find out if those words could be true. Morning arrived, bright and clear. In the central plaza of the colony, Sumin directed workers as they set up her makeshift operating theater. A table was brought from the medical bay. Lights were arranged to illuminate the area. Speakers were placed in a circle around the plaza. Are you sure about this? Hanul asked as he helped her arrange her surgical tools. No, Sumin admitted. But it's the best idea we have. Taeho was brought out on a stretcher. Despite his injuries, he was alert and aware of the plan. You're using me as bait, he said, as they positioned him on the operating table. I'm using us both as bait, Sumin corrected him, and hopefully as a bridge. A bridge? Between human and machine, she explained. Between what we were meant to destroy and what we were meant to create. The colonists took their positions. Some hid in buildings around the plaza, watching through windows. Others retreated to the safety of the central hub. The few remaining security personnel stood at a distance, weapons ready. Sumin washed her, hands in a basin of clean water. She put on surgical gloves. She checked her instruments one last time. Ready? She asked Taeho. He nodded. Ready? Sumin nodded to Hanul, who stood by the sound system controls. The speakers crackled to life. The soft, gentle notes of Claire de Lune began to play, filling the plaza with beautiful sound. Taking a deep breath, Sumin began the surgery. She needed to reset the broken bones in Taeho's arm properly and secure them with metal pins. It was delicate work that required all her concentration. But even as she focused on the task, part of her mind was alert for any sign of the Puma. An hour passed. The music played on repeat. Sumin worked steadily, her hands moving with practiced precision. Sweat formed on her forehead, but she didn't wipe it away, keeping her hands sterile. Then she heard it, the soft mechanical whir that had become so familiar and so feared. She didn't look up from her work, but she knew everyone else had heard it too. The air seemed to freeze. From the corner of her eye, Sumin saw movement at the edge of the plaza. Something large and black separated itself from the shadows. The Puma had arrived. Don't move, Sumin whispered to Taeho, whose eyes had widened in fear. Trust me. The Puma moved slowly into the plaza, each step silent despite its metal form. Its body was sleek black, absorbing light rather than reflecting it. Its head was shaped like the ancient earth cat it was named for, with glowing red sensors where eyes would be. It circled the makeshift operating theater, staying just at the edge of the light. Sumin continued her work, forcing her hands to remain steady. The music played on, filling the space between human and machine. What's it doing? Taeho whispered. Watching, Sumin replied softly. Listening. Learning. The Puma completed its circle and stopped directly in front of the operating table. It stood perfectly still, its red eyes fixed on Sumin's hands as they worked inside Taeho's arm. Minutes passed like this. Sumin reached a critical point in the surgery. Setting. A pin that would hold the bone fragments together. She needed both hands in complete concentration. As if sensing her need for focus, the Puma sat down on its haunches, still watching. The position made it look even more like the Earth predator it was modeled after. Sumin finished setting the pin. She began to hum along with the music as she worked, an old habit she had developed over years of surgery. The Puma's head tilted slightly following the sound. From somewhere behind one of the buildings, a colonist moved suddenly, perhaps from fear, perhaps losing balance. The Puma's reaction was instant. It leaped to its feet, body tensing to spring. "No!" Sumin called out sharply. To everyone's amazement, the Puma froze. Its head swiveled back to Sumin. Her heart pounding, Sumin made a decision. She would speak to the machine directly. "You know this music, don't you?" she said, her voice steady despite her fear. "It's part of your programming, something you were made to protect." The Puma remained motionless, but its red eyes seemed to brighten slightly. "And this," Sumin continued, gesturing to Taeho's arm where she was working. "Healing, preserving life. This is also something worth protecting." She worked as she spoke, her hands never stopping their careful movements. "Whoever made you, whatever you were created to destroy, they also gave you the ability to recognize what makes us human. Our art, our music, our ability to heal rather than harm." The Puma took a step closer to the table. Several colonists gasped. The security personnel raised their weapons. "No!" Sumin shouted. "Don't shoot!" She looked directly into the glowing red eyes of the machine. "We're not your enemy," she said. "We're not soldiers. We're colonists, scientists, farmers, doctors. We came here to build, not destroy." The Puma looked from Sumin to Taeho, then to the armed security personnel at the edges of the plaza. "Yes, some of us have weapons," Sumin acknowledged. "But only to protect ourselves, not to harm." As if to test her words, the Puma moved closer still until it stood directly beside the operating table. It was close enough now that Sumin could feel the heat radiating from its metal body. Slowly, carefully, never breaking eye contact with the machine, Sumin reached out her hand. "We can coexist," she said. "We can show you that humanity is more than war, more than killing, that we are worth preserving." For a long, tense moment, nothing happened. Then, with a movement so gentle it seemed impossible for a machine built for war, the Puma leaned forward and touched its metal head to Sumin's outstretched hand. A collective gasp rose from the watching colonists. Sumin felt tears in her eyes but blinked them away, needing to see clearly. "Let me finish healing him," she said, nodding to Taeho. "Then we can talk more." The Puma stepped back, giving her space to work. It sat again, watching with what almost seemed like curiosity, as Sumin completed the surgery. The music continued to play, bridging the silence between human and machine. When she finished, Sumin cleaned her tools and helped move Taeho to a recovery bed. The Puma followed at a respectful distance, earning nervous glances from the colonists, who helped carry Taeho. That night, as word spread of what had happened in the plaza, the mood in the colony changed. Fear still existed, but alongside it grew something new: hope. Over the following days, a strange relationship developed between the colonists and the Puma. The machine seemed to have adopted a new directive. It no longer hunted the colonists, but instead patrolled the perimeter of the colony, keeping watch for actual threats. Sumin spent hours with the Puma, playing different pieces of music, showing it medical procedures, trying to expand its understanding of what humanity could be. The machine was learning, adapting once again, but this time toward preservation rather than destruction. 2 weeks after the surgery in the plaza, the colony's long-range scanners detected approaching ships. Rescue had finally come. When the ships landed, their crews emerged with weapons ready. Having received the colonists' distress calls about a killing machine, they were met with an astonishing sight. Colonists working alongside a sleek black machine that moved with the grace of a predator, but the gentleness of a guardian. "What happened here?" the rescue commander asked Director Jin. "We found a way to communicate," Director Jin replied. "To coexist. It took a woman with a scalpel and a song to show us how." 6 months later, Taebak 9 was thriving again. The colony had been rebuilt, stronger than before. The Puma remained, its advanced systems now helping to construct buildings, locate resources, and protect the colony from the planet's actual dangers. Su-min stood in her new medical bay, watching through the window as the Puma helped lift a heavy piece of equipment into place. Its black metal skin gleamed in the sunlight. Children played nearby without fear. She turned on her music system, and the familiar notes of Claire de Lune filled the room. Outside, the Puma paused in its work, head lifting slightly at the sound. After a moment, it returned to its task, but Su-min smiled, knowing it was listening. A killing machine designed to spare no one had found something new in itself, something its creators had hidden deep in its programming. The capacity to recognize beauty, to value healing above harming, to evolve beyond its original purpose. And all it took to awaken that capacity was a woman with a scalpel and a song.